Why I don't like driving on country roads at night. So a few years ago, my sister decided to have a 30th birthday party for her husband. Since he missed his senior prom, she decided to make that the theme of the party, and even booked the same hall his prom was hosted in when he was a teenager. The only problem is, my brother-in-law grew up in basically the middle of nowhere. A small, rural Missouri town that you have to leave the highway and travel down about 5 miles of heavily wooded back roads to get to. In addition to being so isolated, there was a rather large heroin problem out there, both using and dealing. It's a pretty potent cocktail, but my sister was determined to have the party there. The party was at 6, and my original plan was to drive out there with my sister and her friends to help set up. My sister was heavily pregnant at the time, and she needed all the help she could get. Then, after the party, I was going to drive back home with her. However, I got called into work and had to stay till 4, so I told my sister I would drive myself up as soon as I was done. She made sure to let me know that it was pretty easy to get turned around in those country roads, but I had Google Maps to help me and didn't worry about it. The drive up there was fine. It was late September, my favorite time of year, and the scenery was surprisingly pretty. I found the place no problem, and helped with some of the last-minute setup before my brother-in-law showed up. The party was actually a lot of fun, and lasted until about 11 when the hall closed. I was one of the last people to leave, having stayed behind to help my sister and her friends stack chairs. The brother-in-law had overindulged at the open bar and had to be driven home by his friends. I guess they weren't sticking too close to the original theming of the brother-in-law's prom. Unless proms in Missouri have open bars, which seems dangerous, but okay. We ended up not actually heading out until about midnight, and by that point I was exhausted. My sister once again warned me to be careful on the back roads, but I'd gotten there okay, so I wasn't too concerned about the drive home. I hugged her goodbye, hopped into my car, and started working my way back to the highway. Unfortunately, in my sleepy state, I misjudged which road I was supposed to turn off of, as I reached the exit for the highway and ended up turning down an entirely different road that ran parallel to it instead. It was another heavily wooded, narrow back road. After driving maybe 200 yards, I spotted a gravel embankment and decided to pull in there so that I could get turned around. I pulled in and made a sharp U-turn so that I could head back up the road. And as I lifted my head to make sure that nobody was behind me, I saw in the driver's side mirror a figure in a dark blue t-shirt and jeans with long black hair and a pale face illuminated by my brake lights. My heart jumped into my throat as I gasped in fright. But after a second of pure panic, I realized the face was actually a mask. One of those cheap plastic white ones you get at the costume stores. I immediately felt like an idiot. It was almost October, so obviously this was a Halloween decoration. This embankment probably led to somebody's driveway, and the family who had a house there probably had tons of things just like this in their yard. I took a moment to unclench my hands from the steering wheel and let my heart rate get back to normal, and ended up catching a glimpse of the thing in my mirror again. I noticed that the embankment didn't actually lead to a driveway. There was nothing else behind me but tall grass and trees. I briefly wondered why anybody would put a Halloween decoration out in the middle of nowhere. And then that's when this decoration took a step forward. I slammed on the gas and took off, eventually getting back on the main road and onto the highway. I don't think I stopped shaking until I reached my town's city limits half an hour later. Looking back, I definitely wasn't in any danger. I was in a car, all the doors were locked, and I could easily have run over whoever this creep was if they tried anything. If they had even gotten one step closer when panic mode set in, that's probably what I would have done. It was probably just some kid or local junkie in a creepy mask, giving motorists a good scare and not really thinking about the consequences. But still, it was definitely one of the creepiest moments of my life, and I'm still nervous driving down secluded country roads at night to this day. Quick shout out to Built by Bama Roll Tide in the comments section of this story. True story, I'm scared of driving down back roads at night after being scared by some local Amish kids. I was driving home at around 2 a.m. after being at the bar with some friends. I turned down my road, and around the curve, a bunch of Amish kids were coming out of a cornfield. Complete children of the corn moment for me. I about pissed my pants. After the heart attack settled, I realized it was a bunch of Amish kids probably doing what almost every teenager in America does, and that's drinking and sneaking out. It was the moment I learned Amish teens weren't too different from any other teens. But still, I sold my house and moved back to the city because that freaked me out so much. So yeah, what'd you think of the stories? I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're doing well. These kind of remind me of, well, where I grew up, there was a lot of secluded, very narrow, wooden back roads and stuff, so I always enjoy reading stories like this, even if nothing super creepy happens. It just reminds me of back home. Like, could you imagine getting lost in the middle of nowhere? There's thick trees everywhere. You can't see anything. It's 2 a.m, 3 a.m. You park into somebody's driveway, which actually isn't a driveway. You start getting your bearings, you pull up Google Maps, you're like, oh man, I gotta turn around. So, like, you back up to turn around, and then there's just a dude standing there with a mask on, staring at you. It never happened to me, but I can only imagine that would be unsettling to say the least. But yeah, I'll cut it there for now. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're taking care of yourself. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. If you aren't subscribed yet, do me a favor, consider subscribing. Share this with a couple friends, it'll give you good luck, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.